What's going on, guys, and welcome back to the channel. If you are new here, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Everyone else, and to the new people, thank you for watching the video. Hopefully you guys enjoy. Feel free to discuss anything you may need to down in the comments below. And let's go ahead and keep on optimizing Cyber Dragons. If you missed part 1, we went over some of the controversial extenders in the deck, such as machine duplication, how many Nax are to play, how many Galaxy Soldier, and how many Repair Plant. We covered like a handful of test hands for 13 different builds to kind of give you guys a small sample size on how consistent each one is and what you can do playing Dragoon in the build. Today we are going to talk about hand traps against some of the top decks. How good are they, what to hit, how many you need to open. We will talk about how many to play in order to open our numbers, and we have a few visuals for you and just some other tips and things to talk about. Yeah, part 1, it's on the channel, guys. Feel free to check it out. It's in the Facebook group somewhere, probably buried down by now. But today, part 2, part 3, probably gonna be the last part, which will be our techs and hand traps, or not hand traps, our techs and removal cards, like our kaiju back row removal, things like that. We may or may not throw side decking in here, but that's kind of hard because it changes so often, and it's kind of dictated on where you're playing, what you're playing against. And then the final video isn't going to really be a part, but it's more or less going to be putting a deck together. We will do machine dupe and no dupe because we want to help everybody out as much as possible. So what are some of the best decks of the format? Obviously we know about like Dragon Link, Dinosaur, Infernobles. There's combo Eldritch again, using like water cards or the rocket cards to turbo into the Helcafibrax to get it that way, go into like Herald of the Arclight and Dragoon, and then set all their Eldritch stuff, things like that. Invoked Dogmatika is a really popular deck, and then decks that like turbo out the Buster Lock with Dragoon. You know, they run the 3 Red Eyes Insight, 3 Red Eyes Fusion, and then like the Buster cards, and sometimes they'll have other engines included as well, but we're just gonna kind of say that as Buster Dragoon turbo for now, and then just really vague Rogue, you know, for the most part, which hand traps are good against Rogue decks. So the best hand trap we have at our of the format, we did a 1 through 10 scale for all these, and Gamma is our #1 hand trap, coming in with an 8.5. A lot of these hand traps, Gamma's actually the only one above an 8, and a lot of them are actually under a 7 even, and that's because we're just in a format like Dragon Link and Infernobles. You have to open multiple for them to even do anything, so we just ranked like each hand trap versus each matchup, how it does. So a lot of them got lower rankings just because of the fact that you really need to open multiples, so do keep that in mind. Another thing to definitely keep in mind, once we do get down to Nibiru, its ranking is way lower than where I think it actually is as far as a hand trap. I think it's better than the majority of the ones ranked higher, but the fact that it's basically useless versus the Blader Dragoon Turbo and Dinosaurs, it's pretty much useless because even if they didn't open their miscellaneous source, they're going to have it in hand way before you can Nibiru. And also Invoked Dogmatika puts out Makaba by the 4th one, so they're just not that, like, it's just got some really lackluster uses in some of these higher matchups that we did rank this with, but it is absolutely one of the better ones versus other ones. And if you pair it up with other hand traps, it absolutely shines and can be fantastic. Like if I open Gamma and Nibiru versus Dinosaur, I Gamma the hand effect of Miscellaneous Source because I'm okay with them completely comboing off, and right before they can put out like a monster negate, you just Nibiru them and board wipe them and end their turn. So I mean, sometimes they'll actually be able to get out Conductor still because they probably wouldn't have used the double Evo pill yet. But anyway, so Gamma versus Dragon Link. This one's tough because they do so much chain blocking, but if you can hit the Romulus, that's what I really like to do, because you negate it, you keep the Phalanx, you keep the Divine Lance, I mean that's just to get Phalanx, and then you also get it off the field, so now they need more extenders to go into their plays. So I do really like Gamma on Romulus if possible. Otherwise, Link Cross is usually the most impactful place that you can Gamma them. We're gonna stick with Gamma for here. Dinosaur, so Gamma, if it's the only one you open, it kind of sucks if they already have the Miscellaneous Source in hand. And actually, I usually, like, if I have Gamma or Ash, don't hit the Oviraptor ever. Like, I get that they're not always going to have Miss in hand, but negating the Miss Grave effect a lot of the time can severely hinder, if not outright stop, their play. So you just Gamma the in graveyard effect, like they banish it for the effect. That one, like we mentioned, if you have Nibiru, feel free to Gamma the hand effect, just so their dinos are affected by the Nibiru, and you can really mess up their turn that way as well. Infernobles, if you hit the Isolde, the second effect, it's really strong. Don't hit the first effect because they're just gonna add a monster that they can't even really use this turn anyway off of it. And if they have enough extenders, they just put out 2 more extenders and then go into Isolde again, and they can still use the second effect. So you Gamma the second effect of Isolde if you're versing Infernobles. Combo Eldritch. So this is hard because it's so vague. Halqifibrax you can hit. Obviously, that's probably the best part. I don't know what all their routes are depending. Like, it all depends on which engine they're playing, but hitting the Halqifibrax is usually a pretty solid hit there. Invoked Dogmatika, Gamma is absolutely amazing because you can hit the Alistair, negate, and destroy it. And even if they open Invocation, Gamma goes on the field, not into the graveyard, so they can't even use the Invocation then. Blader Dragoon, for that one, it's pretty much anything that can stop Verde. So your Gamma, your Impermanence, your Veiler, your Mourner, things like that. But if they open their Red Eyes Insight or Red Eyes Fusion, you pretty much have to open Ash to stop it. Otherwise, they're going to get Dragoon, and they're going to be able to negate anything you have. So you're going to need multiple negates in order to actually stop the Buster Lock from hitting the field. And that's why it's just so strong, because if you don't open that Ash, and they don't have to go to the Verde, then yeah, you're kind of in a bad spot. So versus most rogue decks, Gamma really strong. You know, I can't say, oh, Gamma this against rogue, because there's, you know, 100 rogue decks. Infinite Impermanence comes in as our number 2 hand trap. Hopefully we can stay informative and help you guys like understand all this and break it down good for you, but move along a little bit faster. So Infinite Impermanence came in at a 7.9 for us. Against Dragon Link, it's nice because you can hit like the Romulus and negate the Romulus, you know, because you can dodge chain blocking. It's Dragon Link, like I said, Dragon Link and Infernobles, you pretty much need 2 hand traps to stop them. So it's not gonna do a whole lot on its own, regardless of when you hit it. And depending, if you know they're not playing the like Vylon Cube smoke grenade play, you can kind of just hold it and hope they don't rip it with Levineer, and then you can save it for your turn to force a negate. Not always the worst thing, but you are taking that risk about them not playing the Vylon Cube or the getting it hit with a Levineer. Dinosaurs, it's nice because if some people, they'll like Oviraptor effect, okay, and then I've actually had people chain miss. Like, that's the dumbest thing ever. Don't do that, because then I chain my Imperm to your miss to negate the Oviraptor. Like, it's just really confusing. Otherwise, it is decently solid because there are a lot of variants of dinos, whether they play the Dragoon package and you can negate the Verde, or they play the Barrier Statue Lock, you negate the Simorgh Link, which is huge because obviously if we can't special summon anything other than wind monsters, we're in a really bad spot. So hitting that is really, really big. Infernobles negating the Isolde second effect, but again, you're going to need another hand trap. I had one time against the Power Tool variant of Infernobles, and I only opened Impermanence, and I was curious. I was like, well, what happens if we hit Link Cross? So I hit Link Cross and negated it, and he ripped the other 4 cards out of my hand, and needless to say, I lost. So that was definitely a pretty sour moment there. Versus Combo Eldritch, again, you're negating like the Halqifibrax, because it's really just Hulk Turbo and then set all your Eldritch cards. So at least if you negate the Hulk, you just, you know, make them play Eldritch. Dragoon Dogmatika, Blader Dragoon Turbo. Not the greatest because, again, like I said, Ash is really the only hand trap that truly shines in this, unless they happen to have to go for the Verde play, and then pretty much anything that negates Verde is going to be good there. Invoked Dogmatika, obviously if you hit the Alistair, you know, keep Invocation out of the out of the mix of it, and not being a light monster like, say, Effect Veiler. If they happen to open the invocation, they can't just use your Veiler that you pitch. So impermanence is definitely the best way to negate that other than Gamma. And Rogue decks, it's impermanence. It's a free negate, dodges chain blocking. It's really solid versus Rogue. Ash comes in as our third best hand trap with a 7.5. So Ash versus Dragon Link is basically useless unless you open another higher impact hand trap. You can, stop one thing from happening, but they pretty much chain block and stack so much. You can Ash the Romulus if you can. You can Ash the Halka-Fibrax, the Elpie. But unless you have another hand trap, you're not going to do a whole lot with just a single Ash against them. Dinosaurs, save it for the miss and the graveyard effect. Infernobles, it's not high impact. You need another hand trap to really slow down Dragon Link or Infernobles. Combo Eldritch, if you have another hand trap here, save it for the Sanguine on their turn. Use your other hand trap to stop the combo portion, and save the Ash for the Sanguine to keep the Golden Lord off the field. Otherwise, if they're already going to get Golden Lord, if they already sent it to the graveyard or anything like that, they added it off Eldland, they have it, then I guess stop the combo with Ash. But otherwise, actually keep in mind too, Sanguine has the option of graveyard or deck. So even if there's one in the graveyard and they activate Sanguine, you can Ash it. And if they say, well, I'm summoning from the graveyard, it does not matter because the effect includes the ability to summon from the deck. Therefore, you can Ash it even if they intended to summon from the graveyard. Invoked Dogmatika. I feel like they always open Alistair Invocation, so it really makes you want to hit the Meltdown. But hitting Alistair is probably the best thing you can do, because then, I don't know. It seems like they always open them together, but I always hit the Alistair. People say you can just save it for the Dogmatika part, but no, you can't, because they have Makaba by then. And I mean, you force a Nakaba and get an extra card out of their hand, but I'd rather just try to prevent the Makaba in the first place. So I would Ash the Alistair. Blader Dragoon Turbo, you can keep in mind Prologue sends for cost, so you can't Ash it, and they would already have Dragoon anyway. So you can Ash the Red Eyes Fusion. Don't ever hit the Red Eyes Insight, because if they open Red Eyes Fusion, you just wasted your way to stop it. So you Ash the Red Eyes Fusion. They're still restricted on their summoning because you negated the effect, not the activation. And Rogue Dex Ash is just pretty versatile. So this next one we are going to talk about is a pretty high impact card, but it requires, at least for me, if I can't fit at least 4 targets in the extra deck, I'm not going to play Ghost Reaper and Winter Cherries. I give it a 7.3 because Dinos, it doesn't really do a whole lot. I mean, depending if they're playing a crazy variant, you might have a target for it. I mean, but Dragon Link, you can throw a Link Cross in there and mess with Dragon Link and Infernobles. Halka-Fibrax is a good generic one that would hit combo Eldritch too. Hitting Dragoon, they summon Verde, they send Red Eyes Fusion, chain Cherries to banish Dragoon, get rid of it that way. Rogue deck, pretty much anything just playing those cards, because you're not going to start playing cards in your extra deck for Cherries against Rogue strategies. So I also too, versus Invoked Dogmatika, if they're going to get out the Makaba anyway, I would not play Cherry. I mean, if you have Makaba already, but if you can fit the Titaniclad, do that. Get that banished, because then they can't just keep plussing off of it that way. Or even Intis, so that way they can't pop 2 on your turn. We do play Makaba, so obviously you can hit Makaba. The reason I say to hit Titaniclad or Intis is because we have Fortress. We already out the Makaba so easily, so why do that? And then you have to deal with their full Dogmatika setup anyway. Effect Veiler, Ghost Mourner are the next 2. Essentially, they are the same, other than the fact that Mourner you can hit on either player's turn. Veiler, you can hit the normal summon. Obviously, Mourner burns too, but that's not really going to be any deciding factor here. We gave Veiler a 7.1 and Ghost Mourner a 6.9, because being able to use it on your turn may be nice, yes, but it's just less impactful than being able to hit the normal summon like Veiler can. That's why Veiler ended up coming away with a slightly higher ranking. Dragon Link, it's basically the same targets as Impermanence for both of them, with the exception that Veiler can hit a normal summon. But, I mean, do they have any normal summons that have on summon effects other than like Dragon Chamber Dragon Maid if they're playing that package. And even then I would save it for it when you know you're going to make more of an impact, because they just have way too many extenders. Infernoble, obviously, Valor, you can hit like the connector, or yeah, the connector, and then I mean, because Mourner, either one of them you'd be able to hit the Dolphin, but Valor can at least hit the connector if you so choose to go that route. Personally, I would debate on it. If I don't have any other hand traps, you pretty much have to, because otherwise you'll be forced to hit the Dolphin, and then they're just going to go into Isolde then anyway. Combo Eldritch, you're stopping the, like we said, imperm. You're stopping the combo portion. Invoked Dogmatika, pretty much same as imperm. The main difference between imperm and these is imperm you can use on either player's turn. You can set it. So obviously Blade or Dragoon, you hit the Verde if they can go that route. Otherwise you can't really do a whole lot. I mean, if they actually Mourner kind of does shine pretty good in the Blade or Dragoon, because as soon as they go to do like the Blader combo, either you already baited the Dragoon negate, or as soon as then they summon the Buster Lock, you can pitch your Mourner and then negate the Buster Lock, but they're obviously going to stop it with Dragoon. So then you force the Dragoon negate and then can attempt to make your own Buster or your own Dragoon. Yeah, but I mean, I guess you're not going to be able to because everything's Dragon and Dragons can't activate their effects. So kind of in a stuck situation there. But yeah, you can, if you already baited the Dragoon though, and then they play the Buster cards like trying to play around something potentially maybe, then you just use Mourner to negate the Buster Dragon, and if Dragoon's already negated, they can't stop it. Rogue, they're both decent versus Rogue. Droll and Lockbird came in at a 6.7, so Droll and Lockbird came in a little lower than some people might think, and it came in there because like Dragon Link, they can play around it. Now a lot of time they don't search boot sector off of the Striker Dragon at first. They go into one later in the combo and they'll search it out, and they do that because then like they guarantee the Romulus search, and that's way more important and helps them play around and through way more. So they kind of have ways to play around it. Dinosaur can play around it very, very well, because a lot of time they only need that one search. Sure, you might stop like a Conductor or some like small things from hitting small things from happening, I should say. Like Droll's okay versus Dinos. It can be very good if they open poor, but if they open halfway decent, Droll, it's not bad, but it's not turn ending like it used to be. Infernobles, it's okay. I mean, it's one that it was nice if you have it with another hand trap, but I'd usually side it out for more impactful cards. Combo Eldritch, again, not as good as it used to be because they don't draw like crazy, but it is still a solid card versus them. Invoked Dogmatika, Droll and Lockbird is absolutely amazing. I gave it a 10 in that matchup because, oh, Meltdown, Droll, okay. You know, Alistair, Search Invocation, Droll, oh, okay, I can make a Macabre. I can summon out my Dogmatika stuff, but I can't search any of the stuff to finish off the combo. Rogue decks, a lot of rogue decks are hit by Droll, and obviously there's certain rogue decks that just don't care at all, but 6.7. Nibiru comes in now as a 6.6, and remember guys, this one is so low because Dinosaur's pretty much always going to get the Miscellaneosaurus effect way before 5 summons, so you're not really going to be able to get through it that way. Additionally, before they go into anything that isn't a dinosaur that can get hit, they can usually make a Dolka to just negate the Nibiru anyway. Dragon Link, it's pretty solid against. Drop it like right after they summon something off of the Marcher from the graveyard. Infernobles, again, it's right after like the Link Cross tokens. Combo Eldritch, you know, hit them probably right around that same Marcher play. Invoke Dogmatika, it's really not that good against because they just make Macabre by summon number 4, and then Blade or Dragoon just doesn't really summon a whole lot that first turn. They do most of their summoning on your turn, so obviously Nibiru is not that great. Rogue decks, Nibiru absolutely crushes things. Without really going into too much more for the matchups on these next few, we gave Crow a 6.5, Ghost Ogre a 6.2, and Ghost Bell a 5.8. So those are the hand traps we talked about, our quick little rankings for them. We're not going to have Lancia yet That'll be if we do happen to do a side, or maybe that'll even come in as a tech card, because it's not really a popular card to be in the main deck whatsoever. So now, how many hand traps do you want to play? Well, it kind of comes down to how many you want to open, and are you playing 40, 41, or 42 cards? So you can see the graph up on the screen. Now, without like reading through absolutely all of it, you guys can look at it now, you can talk about it, you can, you know, pause the video, things like that. But a few ones I do want to mention, like number of hand traps, I personally recommend at least 9. I personally play 12 to 14 though. But I do say you should play at least 9. And if you look at 40 card deck, if you play 9 hand traps, you have a 74% chance to open one with a 31% chance to open multiple. So that's pretty good. And if you look in the graphic at the bottom, it's like, well, what if I don't open my cards? Well, you're going to have 5 cards, and if you open multiples, okay, cool, because you're going to get a draw, so you have 6 cards. To open 3 plus, I guess, these are slightly off because this is 3 plus in 5 cards. They would be a little bit higher. But to open 3 plus hand traps and you're opening 5 cards with 9 hand traps, there's only a 7% chance to happen. So not too likely. And if you look at, like, because I've seen people play 8 hand traps too. So you have a 69% chance and a 26 for multiples. And if you don't want to cut a different card, if you just bump to 41, your 69 goes up to a 73, and likewise your 26 goes to a 31. And opening 3 plus, you have a 6% chance of doing that, so not too bad whatsoever. Now, what about if you're playing like 12 hand traps? Obviously, you see here 85% chance and a 42% chance at multiple, so you're right there, like almost 50% of the time you will open multiple, which is, like we said, pretty needed. That's why I do like playing 12 to 14, and personally right now I am playing 14, so I have a 90, well, I play 42 cards too, so I have an 88% chance to open one with a 55% chance to open multiples. And I do think that's just really like important. And even being with a 42 card build and playing 14 hand traps, 20% of the time I'll open 3 plus, and I'm still okay with that, because if I open 3, I have 3 more cards to still play and do what I need to do. And keeping in mind too, like if Nibiru is one of them hand traps, I have a monster on board. Sorry, it's getting pretty late here, but we're getting pretty close to wrapping this up. So yeah, I mean, like I said, without going through all this, keep in mind, like when you're deciding how many hand traps, just look at the, obviously the column that says how many. Then are you playing 40, 41, 42, and say you have 11 hand traps and you're at 40, and you just, do I play 11? Do I want to bump it up? Do I cut something? Like if you just bump it up to 12, you can go down at a slight angle there and go to the 41 card column. Or say you're at 10, you got room for 10 hand traps, but you want to play 12, just put 2 more hand traps in, and you go from 78% up to 83% just by putting those 2 hand traps in. So yeah, guys, this is our video on hand traps and kind of the odds of opening them, giving you guys this little insight as to what I do when I decide on hand traps. I actually do this quite a bit. You can ask Brock. I'd send him pictures of me really hard at work, filling out like notebook paper, just like cross charts of hand traps top decks and how good are they 1 to 10, and just totaling everything out. But anyway, part 2 is finished. Hand traps here, and this isn't really just for Cyber Dragon. I guess there's one thing I did want to mention that is specific to Cyber Dragon. Otherwise, the video's been pretty generic. I think it can help you build with any deck whatsoever. Discards for Soldier and Naxter, you know, Ogre's Light, Veiler's Light, Nibiru's Light, Gamma's Light, they're all monsters. Don't do it. Why are you pitching a hand trap to potentially put out like a negate? You have the negate already in your hand. Keep it. Like, I'd rather have Nibiru Gamma in my hand with like a core and pass turn and have Gamma Nibiru to stop my opponent. I don't want to. You can make Dragoon Infinity neg super hard and hope that it's still good enough, or you just pass turn and you have your Gamma Nibiru and you know, take them head on, don't let them win, and then you go off on your next following turn. The only time I will pitch hand traps like that is, one, if it's a dead Gamma, obviously that's easy, or if I'm like have a chance to attack and I know I can put out enough damage for game, then I will go for it, as long as like I know I can put out enough damage for game, because I don't want to give up my disruptions to potentially make a disruption, if that makes any sense, because I see people talk about it all the time and I just don't quite understand the logic. Like, especially before Dragoon came out, it's, well, play these so you can discard them to make your infinity, and it's like, you just gave up a Veiler Ogre to make infinity. Like, I get it's a negate and destroy, and they're negate, like, I don't know. I guess it's just a personal preference thing. But anyway, hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Like, share, subscribe, and see you guys next time when we talk about tech cards and our removal.